Hello everyone, and welcome back to Turkish series stars. I hope your day is unfolding with warmth and good energy, because what we're sharing today is the kind of story that brushes against the heart and leaves a glow behind. The theme that guides us is clear: love that tears down walls. Not a sugary fairy tale, but a lived-in, breath and blood kind of love that insists on finding a way. And before we step into it, make sure you're subscribed and your notifications are on so you don't miss any of our deep dives into the most moving journeys of the people you admire. Today we're turning the spotlight toward Barış Baktaş and Yağmur Yüksel, two names we often hear separately across sets, interviews, and premieres, as if they belong to different constellations. Yet when their stories drew near, something surprising happened. The distance that once felt inevitable began to shrink. Imagine two paths so distinct that any intersection seemed unlikely, and then imagine the magnetic pull that happens when two souls quietly recognize something familiar in one another. That's where it starts. This is not a tale dressed in glitter and illusion. It's textured with effort, patience, and the courage that grows only when life tests you again and again. From early on, Yağmur had to climb slopes that would exhaust most. She kept a small flame inside: resilience, hope, stubborn light. Guarded behind an armor you couldn't see but could feel. She learned to carry herself with calm grace, even on days when the world felt heavier than it should. And it's in that brave stillness that Barış came into her orbit. Barış, for his part, didn't walk in untouched by shadows. His battles weren't always loud or obvious, the kind you can point to in a headline, but they were present, lingering at the edges of quiet moments. He has that sensitivity you don't expect until you've heard him speak, the ability to notice the small things people hide, the gestures that offer truth more honestly than words. That intuition led him toward Yağmur, and when he reached her, he didn't try to fix what wasn't broken, he tried to understand what was guarded. The moment their paths crossed wasn't accompanied by fireworks or staged coincidence. It felt almost incidental, a shared hallway on a studio day, a mutual friends gathering that neither planned to stay long for, a script discussion that spilled past its scheduled time. The exact day matters less than the recognition that flashed between them. A tone of voice that sounded like safety. An expression that said, "I see you, really see you." That's where their connection sparked, not from grand gestures, but from the quiet clarity of feeling known. It's easy to name the walls we all carry. Emotional walls, fear of being read too closely. Social walls, the assumptions that cling to fame. Economic and professional walls, the schedules, the press cycles, the perpetual hovering of public opinion. And then there are the walls of hesitation built from past disappointments, the ones that convince you it's safer not to try. Both of them had their own structures, sturdy and carefully laid. But where others might get lost in the height of the barrier, Barış and Yağmur learned to notice the cracks. And when you notice cracks, patience becomes a tool. They didn't rush the demolition. They asked questions, waited for answers, paid attention to silences. They let trust accumulate the way waves build shorelines, slowly, persistently, in rhythms that made sense only if you were watching closely. The most essential part of that process was communication, not the performative kind, but the honest, vulnerable kind that requires you to sit in uncomfortable truth and still choose the person in front of you. Picture Yağmur, nerves alive, talking about a chapter she rarely revisits, the pressure of expectations, the fatigue that sets in when you're always on display, moments when the mirror shows only doubt. Picture Barış listening without interruption, offering steadiness rather than solutions, acceptance rather than advice. Then reverse the scene, Barış sharing the weight of choices, the worry of not being enough, the quiet nights when the applause felt distant. In each exchange, their promise wasn't to fix each other, it was to witness each other with care. From there, their love didn't sit back and admire itself, it got to work. It became the kind of love that asks, "What do you want to build, and how can I help?" When a project arose that frightened one of them, the other became both anchor and tide, holding steady, pushing gently, never taking over but always showing up. If you watched closely, you'd see it in small acts of faith, a late-night rehearsal run-through, a drive across the city after a long day to share a quiet meal, a message sent at the exact moment encouragement was needed. Of course, even strong bonds face storms. There were weeks stretched thin by filming and rehearsals, months punctured by rumors and the rumor makers who feed on conjecture, days where fatigue amplified small misunderstandings into echoes that felt bigger than they were. But here's what sets them apart: they treated differences not as verdicts, but as invitations. Instead of letting emotions calcify, they spoke. Instead of turning away, they turned toward. They learned the uncomfortable magic of compromise and the rare grace of apologizing well. Mutual admiration became their cornerstone. Yağmur's courage, her way of showing up fully even when uncertainty trembled in her hands, didn't escape Barış's notice. He admired the way she refuses to shrink herself to fit into someone else's comfort. And she, in turn, saw in him a balance of strength and tenderness that isn't common. A careful optimism, a refusal to respond to challenge with bitterness, a discipline that makes ambition gentle rather than harsh. That admiration kept fueling them when routine threatened to dull the glow. Around them, friends and family watched with protective caution at first. That's natural, love grows under many eyes, and not all of them are ready to believe. There were hushed conversations, subtle checks for red flags, quiet questions asked out of care. Yet time has a way of revealing truth. As days became months, their circle saw how each became more themselves beside the other. More grounded. More expansive. More willing to face what scared them and to celebrate what thrilled them, not alone but together. What can we gather from their path? Empathy, first of all, the kind that doesn't pretend to know everything, but tries to feel what the other person is feeling. Vulnerability, second. The decision to put down your shield, to let the person you love into rooms you usually keep locked. Patience, third, the understanding that love doesn't bloom on command, that it requires time, attention, repair. And finally, unconditional support, the steady presence that remains when the lights are low and uncertainty sits close. Their story doesn't claim that love erases difficulty. It shows that love can change how you carry difficulty. It turns obstacles from verdicts into puzzle pieces, changes setbacks into detours instead of dead ends, and replaces the urge to retreat with the courage to stay and try again. Watching them, it's hard not to feel that the world grows kinder when two people choose each other with intention, and then keep choosing one another when it's not easy. If you trace their trajectory, you'll find the moments where faith in one another shifted the outcome of a day. A delayed call turned into a conversation that solved a week's worth of tension. A quiet affirmation given before an audition softened a fear that had been clenching for years. A promise kept on an ordinary Tuesday grew into a pattern of reliability that felt like a home. That's how walls fall, not with one dramatic gesture, but with many small, purposeful steps. They would be the first to say they're not extraordinary in ways that set them apart from the rest of us. What makes their story shine is the ordinary done consistently, the way they choose honest words over perfect impressions, repair over pride, listening over the need to be right. The industry might emphasize flash and spectacle, but the backbone of their love is the daily discipline of showing up, again and again, in both sunlight and rain. When they look at each other, it isn't about elevating one another onto pedestals, it's about meeting on the ground, eye to eye. She reminds him to be gentle with himself, to honor the slow progress no one else sees. He reminds her that ambition can be tender, that it's possible to dream audaciously without losing softness. Together, they've learned the art of celebrating wins privately, resting deliberately, and defending quiet moments from the noise. Over time, the people closest to them stopped worrying and started cheering. Skepticism melted into belief, and belief turned into inspiration. You can hear it in the way friends speak about them now, with a certainty that what they share isn't performative, but rooted. It's a connection that stands up to the stress test of public life, the grueling schedules, the headlines that try to narrate what they haven't lived. Through all of it, their private language remains their sanctuary. So when we say their love tears down walls, we don't mean it storms the gates. We mean it studies the structure, learns the pressure points, and then insists, with tenderness, that there's a better way through. It asks more of both people, and then gives more back. It says, I'm here when it's easy, and I'm here when it's not. It turns the daunting into the doable and the distant into the near. That is the miracle of a patient, active love. As we close, take a moment to think about which part of their journey touches your own. Is it the courage to speak honestly? The patient practice of repair? The quiet choice to believe in a shared future even when the present feels complicated? Share your thoughts in the comments, we read them, and they matter. If this story offered you a moment of light, tap like, pass it along to someone who needs a reminder, and make sure you're subscribed to Turkish series Stars so you'll never miss a story that reminds us what's possible when two people choose to build something true. Until next time, take care of yourselves, and let love be the steady light that helps you find your way forward.